Okay, welcome back. This is going to be the second part. In the last episode, we basically created these prefabs that we instantiate as we run along. So let me just show you what that is, so we can just remind ourselves of where we were. So the character is going to run through this box collider, instantiate the next part of the level, and then after 5 seconds, it's going to destroy the other part of the level. I just kind of worked out the timing to be around 5 seconds because that's when the level kind of leaves. We're going to add to each of these systems. So I'm going to start by adding to this code here. So when the level gets when we're going to randomly spawn a new level on trigger, but I want to do something so that when we spawn this level, we're going to have items we can spawn, or different sections, different things like obstacles, pickups, health pickups, damage pickups, that kind of thing. So let's right click and type in start. We're going to add a start event, and then we're going to do something when the game starts. Now, I'm going to create two prefabs here. One is going to be list of spawn points, and that's going to be a list of transforms. Not even close. Let's try that again. Come on, Bolt. Bolt has a moment where it takes a little while to calculate, and this requires us to add a few spawn points. So this is, again, I make my systems a little more artist friendly, a little less dev friendly. So I'm going to open this prefab up, and in the prefab I'm just going to create a new empty. Sorry for that. I'm going to rename this, call this spawn points. And I'm just going to create a few empty objects in there. There's one. I'm going to say I'm going to instantiate something over here, and then I'm going to rename this so that it's easier to sp_01. I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to move this one over here. Let's just say I'm not really putting a lot of thought into this. I'm just showing you how the system is going to end up. So those are the two points for this object. And then when we do the other prefab, we'll do the same process over there. Sweet. Yes, so now that we have the spawn points, we can go and add them to the list. Spawn point 1, spawn point 2. Just make sure we apply that to the prefab so that the parent gets the same information. And I'm going to check in the sprite sheet, see if I can find anything in this tile set that we can instantiate. Hell, why not? Okay, so it requires me, look, as powerful as Unity's become and all the really awesome stuff, the fact that all these packages are kind of, separate makes it really powerful and really also just a little frustrating, especially something like having to download the sprite package in order to chop up these sprite sheets into smaller pieces. So please bear with me, my internet isn't super fast. So I'm just waiting for it to load all the packages so I can get the one that I'm looking for. This is where I should be playing some elevator music in the background so that you have something to listen to while we watch this loading bar go round and round and round. I was about to sing music for you, but I thought I'd stop it there. It's like, you don't pay for this shit, so let's just leave it at that. Wow, internet is super fast. If it continues at this rate, we'll just create some 3D objects and we'll leave it at that. Just gonna give it another minute or so and okay, there we go, finally. Okay, we're going to type in sprite because that's what I want to get, and I want to do this sprite installer, 2D sprites. 2D sprite shapes are really cool. When you get a chance, try those out. You can draw your level along curves, and you can get a more organic looking 2D game. But just for this exercise, I'm not even looking at what the art looks like. I'm just showing you the back end of it, the logic, the code. And then you can use this for whatever you would like to use it for. Again, with the bolt. Come on, bolt. Okay, so anyone who uses bolt out there and you're watching this video, you're probably wondering why it's popping up a lot. I'm not currently using my laptop to make these videos, and this laptop is using one version older as far as the Unity, and that is why Bolt is always popping up. So when it does pop up there, do not go and update or install it. Bolt is going to work just fine. It's just a bug in the machine. It's like a little ghost in the system that's saying that, okay, now you've changed versions. Are you sure you want to, you need to install Bolt? Meanwhile, you really don't. Okay, so now that it's done, I can open up the sprite editor. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's actually just dock it in here in case I decide to cut any more sprites up. Okay, so let me find a section that I think we don't have any kind of weird. I guess we could use this as an obstacle here. Boop, 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 boop. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to make sure the origin is always set to the bottom. Whoops, grabbed the wrong one. So I'm going to say set the pivot to the bottom so that when I put my spawn points, I'm going to put them in the right place, and then it will instantiate the right part. So I'm going to choose bottom center. Now that's where the origin is going to be. Just going to give this tile set a name. Call this rock. I don't know. That's all I got right now, guys. That's all I got right now. And then another one I'm going to do is just, what the hell? Let's just instantiate a tree. Again, I'm going to make sure it's kind of near the bottom. Just make sure it covers the tree. Try to crop it as close as possible when you're really doing this kind of stuff. You don't want to waste processing power on objects like any unnecessary alphas. And I'm going to also put this to the bottom center so that the origin is there. I'm just going to call this one tree. And for now, I think I want to leave it at that. So we need to hit the apply button. And we can go back to the scene view. And if you open up this tile set, you'll see that you have the rock and the tree. It's my tree. There is my rock. So I'm just going to now make sure my spawn points are in the right place. Okay, so they're too far up, so I'm just going to move them down towards the ground. Move the other one also towards the ground. And I'm going to say that I guess we'll probably find something to do with these. Okay, so I'm going to grab my tree and drag it in. I'm going to grab my rock and drag it in so that we have our objects here. And each of these objects is going to do something. So let's say the rock is going to deal damage. So I'm going to add the rock kind of feels like a box collider 2D shape, if you ask me. There we go. That's going to be my box collider 2D shape. And we're going to leave it as it is. We don't want it to be a trigger. When the player hits it, he's going to lose health, and then you're going to have to jump over it type thing. And we're going to give it a tag. So when we collide with it, we want to be able to see what it was, if you will. So I'm going to add a tag. Add a new tag. Let's call this obstacle. And let's create another one. Let's just call this one. Let's call it health pickup. Because I think we're going to add a health pickup. We might as well, if I'm showing you how to do a damage system, I also need to show you how to add health to your damage system. So the rock is going to be tagged as obstacle. I think, funny enough, I'm going to say that the tree is your health. Okay, again, we don't really have any proper artwork at this point, so I'm going to, actually, I'll try to see if I can surf the net and find a little heart. So we'll leave the tree out of this situation. So the tree is, we're going to instantiate it later on. So let me just open up here and let me just look for a pixel art heart. Pixel art. Let's say elixir. That could be quite cool. Let's see how my internet's doing, because it's doing such beautiful things right now. Okay. So like again, I'm not too bothered with it. So this one looks pretty cool. I'm not sure where I'm getting it from, so I hope. Apologies if I don't give any credit to the person. So, but it is quite a nice looking little one. So I'm going to click on it. Click on the button. I assume I will be able to download it at some point. Something. Yeah, download transparent PNG. Just remember that two types of images have alphas in them. You have your standard Targa, which has an alpha channel. Then you have your PNG, which is basically just missing the alpha, or it's got transparency in the actual image itself. So I'm just going to put this under my name. I'm going to go to my project. I'm going to go to the assets, and I'm just going to drop the image inside the sprites here. I'm just going to rename it to Elixir of Life. Okay, so that should do it. And if we go here, you'll see it pops up here. And just remember, when importing it, if your project wasn't originally set up to be a 2D project, your import settings will be incorrect. So on the right side here, click on default, change it to Sprite, 2D, and UI. And because it's pixel art, I'm going to turn off the bilinear to point so that there is no compression. There's no blurring of the image. And we're just going to drag the Elixir of Life in here. And it's huge. So I'm going to change the pixel size down to, I don't know, let's try 16 and see what happens. Oops, wrong direction. Sorry, my apologies. Let's go there. Okay, definitely much smaller. Much smaller. Let's try that. Let's go 500. Why not? And again, I'm just kind of, holy crap. Okay, double it up again. One more time. One more time for good measure. Still so big. Because I'm going to make this 1,500. Sorry about this. I didn't do my homework beforehand for this image size, so it's a little bit absurd scale-wise. So it's almost the right size, so we really do need to kind of downsize this mother. I'm going to try it. I'm going to see if this is the magic number. There we go. That kind of feels a little bit better. So this is going to be my little health pickup. I'm going to add, this kind of feels like I'm going to use a circle collider 2D for this. And because I don't want the health to slow me down, I'm just going to make that be a trigger so that it's on trigger enter, and that's going to have my health pickup tag. For now, I'm going to remove the tree. Okay, now that we have these two objects again, we need to go and make prefabs of this. So I'm going to open up my prefab folder and just drag the rock into my prefabs and drag the elixir into my prefab. And now that I have these two, I just also want to make sure the origin of my elixir is in the right place. So if you select your image, on import you can change the origin. So right now it says center, so I want mine to be bottom. And I'm going to apply, and you'll notice it's going to move up in the world like that. And you know that that's done it correctly, which means now I have to move my collider up by that amount. There we go. Let's round it down. Because of my OCD, I need to round that to the correct number. I'm going to push apply, and then we're going to delete these. We do not need them in the level because we're going to instantiate them into the level. Okay, so when we start the level, we have a list of spawn points, and now we need a list of spawned. Oh, jeepers. Let's try that again. A list of spawned objects. There we go. Let's just say. Or list of items would have been better. But anyway, so now this is going to be a list of game objects like we did before. There we go, list of game objects, and we're going to add 2 because we only have 2. I'm going to click on the circle because I'm in full view. I don't necessarily want to go and find the project. So I'm going to go into my assets. I'm going to type in rock so I can add my rock. I'm also going to click on the second circle, move over to assets, and type in Elixir of Life. There we go. Now that we have these, we can continue and generate this system. So the plan is to go through this list, the spawn points, and instantiate something at every single one of these spawn points. And it's going to be random between a rock and a health, or whatever we want it to be. So it doesn't have to be random, but I'm just making it random just to show you how it works. So to go through a list and do the same thing to every item in the list, we're going to do a for each. And then we're saying for each item in the list, so for every single item, so in this case, for every spawn point we have, we're going to do something at the in this list. And that's going to be, we're going to game object dot instantiate original position rotation. Or in this case, I do want it to get parented to the object because I want to delete the object along with everything that's in it when the level passes us. So we're going to use original position, rotation, and parent. Okay, again, we do know where the spawn point is. We're getting it from this item. So we're going to drag here and we're going to type in transform.position. We're going to plug that into the position, and we're going to do the same thing for the rotation. So transform.rotation. And the parent, we're just going to drag off this, and we should be able to just say self, because this is the object we want to be parented to. Okay, so it's still orange because we don't actually have the object we want to instantiate just yet. So I'm putting the start at the top because it starts at the top, and I look down my code normally when I'm working in Bolton. It's the same as, I guess, from when I do Visual Studio Code. So now we're going to do the exact same thing we just did at the bottom here for the last video. We're going to grab our spawn object. We're going to say get list item. And this is where we're going to do a random check. So we're going to go and type in random.range. Well done, my spelling's not bad. I'm lying, it's horrible. So 0 again, can't go below 0, but the maximum, again, we want to get the count of the list. So instead of typing all this out again, I'm just going to grab this here. Grab this here, go Control C, Control V. We're going to grab the count of the list, and we're going to plug that into here. There we go. Now we're going to get the right amount of items in the list. We're going to drag this up here. We're going to drag this into there. We're going to put a group around this. So we're going to say, wow. Let's try I do that again. I was hitting the function key. Sorry about that. Let's say spawn random item at spawn points. Okay, so that's what that does. Notice how you got this little color bar in here, so you can color code all of your little windows to just look a little bit different, and just to kind of so you can see the flow or make sense of what you're doing. Plus, it's pretty, so why not? If you've got a little bit of time, you can always just make your work a little bit prettier, and it makes it a little bit easier to follow and read. Okay, so let's test this out. When I start, I should instantiate 2 items. I think one is here and the other one's near the end. There we go. We got 2 health pickups. Let's start the game again, see what we get this time. We got a rock and a health pickup this time, so let's see what the third time is. There we go, we got the same. So the system is working. So let's do the same thing in code, and then we can move on to the next part where they actually deal damage. We create a little health bar for the player, all that kind of stuff. So that was in this section here. I'm just going to open this prefab, grab the spawn points, right click and say copy. I'm just going to go to my second prefab. I'm going to open that up, and I'm just going to paste that in there. And then all I'll do is just reposition these. So I think I'm going to put one. I know if it ends up being an obstacle, it's going to be a really crappy place to put an obstacle, but hey, why not? And then I'm going to put the other one like straight after over here, and potentially instantiate a third one over there, just to show you can have multiple lengths to your list, so it makes no difference how many items you add. You just make sure you update the list accordingly. Okay, so that's it. So this one has got the code, so we're going to do the same thing in the actual script. So we're going to open up the script. Just waiting for Visual Studio Code to set up all the references and everything. There we go. Okay, so we added two lists, so I need to do another serialized field. This is going to be a list of transforms. And this one's going to be list of spawn points. And it's going to be equal to a new list of transforms, two round brackets, and a semicolon to create it. And the next one again is going to be a serialized field. This one's going to be a list of game objects. And this one is going to be a list of items. This time I'm going to call it correctly. What the hell am I doing? That's better. List of items equals a new list of game objects, two round brackets, and a semicolon at the end. Okay, that should do it. So now we're going to say on start. So in this case, we're going to type in start event, hit tab to autocomplete. And in here, we're going to do a for each. There we go. And we're going to say for each item in the list of spawns. So let's just shorten that to SP for the name of the variable. So for every spawn point in the list of spawns, we're going to do the following. We're going to, first, we need to do exactly what we did here. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to type in game object. Let's call this current item is equal to instantiate. Not instantiate, what am I doing? It's going to be out of the list of items. Where's my list of items? List of items. Okay, two square brackets inside here. We're going to go random.range, two round brackets, and in here we're going to go 0, comma. I'm going to paste that list of items again, dot count. And we can put a semicolon at the end. And that will be now getting us the random item. So every spawn point is we're going to find a random item in the list. And then we're going to instantiate it. So we're going to instantiate current item, comma, sp.position, comma, sp.rotation, comma, this dot game object. Okay, probably getting a reference because it's looking for a transform. Let's try that, shall we? There we go. So all I did in this line of code is say, create the current item at the spawn point position, rotation. Then all I'm doing is I am setting the parent to be this object. Okay, that should do it. Again, we need to wait for it to compile, and then it's going to add two new lists to this script. Again, bloody bolt. So list of spawn points, we have 3, so I'm going to add 3, and I'm just going to open this up and grab all 3 spawn points. And for the list of items, we only have currently got 2, so I'm just going to open that up, and I'm going to drag the rock and the elixir. And now that the systems are in place, we need to actually test to see if, when I destroy the level, if it destroys the pickups along with it. So I'm just going to keep an eye on that to see if that works. Okay. Here we go, instantiated 2 elixirs, boom, boom. Yes, it destroyed it. These are good things when things work the first time. There we go. So, okay, so the systems are working. So that is the way you would do that. And what's nice about this spawn point is you can just use it for anything. You can instantiate enemies in, and then the enemies are going to patrol. Whatever it is that you're doing, you can do this for not just an infinite runner, but you could do a dungeon crawling level where every time you go into a new room, you instantiate a new room with all the enemies inside, all the loot, all that kind of stuff. So this can be used for pretty much anything that you can think of as far as when you're trying to do something to multiple enemies. And what's powerful about this for loops, you guys need to, for each loop, you need to realize is, for example, you need to find the distance between the player and all the enemies, and then find the nearest enemy and shoot him. You could have a list of all the enemies over here, for example. Feed all the enemies and say get the distance between the item and the player, and then compare that to a variable that you save called saved distance, and keep checking to see if it's greater or less than value. Every time it's less, you save that value again and again until you get the closest, and then you can do something on the loop out. On the exit, you can say kill enemy. And that is that for this video. In the next video, we'll just continue from what we're doing here, and we're going to create a health system, and we're going to create a UI element and all of that jazz. So see you in a little bit.